Friends from the Road. You are now listening to the Friends from the Road podcast.
Gaining new friends along the journey. Sharing stories that inspire, encourage, and motivate.
Friends from the Road podcast. Now here's your host, Daniel Hurd.
As I prepared for this episode, the wind was whipping around. It's a gloomy day, and in the distance, the wind was hitting the shoreline of Lake Texoma, sounding like waves crashing. The sun, hidden by gray clouds, covering the sky in all directions. Yet as I prepared to hit record, the wind calmed down and was replaced by the sounds of birds and squirrels. Maybe you can hear the chimes in the background as well. Just like the weather, things can change in a moment. Welcome everyone to the introduction episode of the Friends from the Road podcast. This is Daniel Hurd, host of the Friends from the Road podcast and founder of the One Pedal at a Time movement, a small nonprofit organization for suicide awareness. This podcast was created to continue sharing stories of people I met along the road of life that may inspire, encourage, and motivate the listeners to share or create their own stories. Now, you may be thinking, continuing to share, when and where did it start? I am transitioning from a series called Movement Monday, and to understand that, we must go back in history a little bit. So here's a quick summary of everything, but if you would like to know more in detail, please check out ridewithdanusa.com. I was born in New Hampshire, but really, I grew up in Massachusetts. Like so many families, my family was very dysfunctional at times. I'm sure some of you can relate. Now, fast forward to right after I turned 18. I joined the Navy, where I did 2 Westpac deployments before exiting the Navy as an E5 4 years later. I moved back to Massachusetts, and the issues I had from childhood and service really started to surface. This is when my struggle with PTSD and major depression really began to increase, all of which led to multiple suicide attempts. After those attempts, a friend of mine got me to get on a bicycle and go for a ride with him. Little did I know that this tool, the bicycle, had the potential to change my life. Freedom, fresh air, exercise. All good things when life seems tough. And that's just some of the things I needed. The first bike ride led to many more. And eventually my bike friend and indirectly my military family inspired me to take a journey across the lower 48 states for my own healing and to shine a light on the ever-growing issues of suicide and depression in today's world. The idea became a reality March 5th of 2018, and now it's been 3 years. As of today, I have traveled through 44 states. I have cycled thousands of miles and met many interesting people, made new friends, listened to, and shared life stories. I also intervened in suicide attempts and been in a handful of accidents. It was the last accident that transitioned me into podcasting when I was hit by a car in October of 2020 that left me unable to continue my mission by bicycle. After multiple surgeries and nearly 2 weeks in the hospital, I was finally released upon unable to bend my left leg, and I had to leave with a cane. But I stayed positive as much as possible. I was still alive, something just a few years before I thought I didn't want. I was fortunate to have many people appear by my side by the means of social media from all over the place. But a friend from the road offered me a home to heal physically and mentally from this awful ordeal. I was invited to Lake Texoma in the Lakeside studio here where this is being recorded in Texas to heal, learn, and recoup. Fellow veteran and Heart of a Volunteer founder and producer Chris Noel had given me an opportunity to learn new skills that would benefit not just me, but anybody willing to listen. This led to the creation of the podcast series Movement Monday on Heart of Volunteer Veterans Podcast. It was a new way to continue my journey, keep me occupied during a tough time, and continue helping people by showing the great things others were doing with their own movements. I needed Movement Monday for myself so much because I had lost my ability to truly move. And if I wasn't careful, I could get stuck in my negative thoughts. The series had me using my mind, writing down notes, building outlines, and just thinking out my thoughts. I was able to learn so much from every episode, learning about the person I was interviewing and the movements they were on. This was used as a tool to exercise my brain. I learned so much about the Gold Star heritage through Leon Forsyth, ADHD with Nicole Santiago, and I learned a lot about Garmin's GPS vets with Mike Miner. Working on this gave me something to look forward to. Every episode was amazing for me, and that's why they will be re-released for everyone on the FFR podcast. Now, my leg bending began just weeks after the stitches and staples were removed. And I remember the first time I was able to slightly bend it was while taking a shower. I was using a shower chair to get in and out of the tub. This time I stayed in longer than just letting the warmth hit my legs. Man, it was so relaxing. But before I knew it, I had just finished up and got out. Moments later, I realized what I had just done. And I yelled out of pure joy to Chris in the other room, "My leg just bent." It was time to start the stretching process. I knew my goal was to get back on the bicycle. Even after such a horrible accident and the aftermath of it, I knew I was mentally better off with cycling in my life, but I was still far from being there. I had started walking and going to physical therapy when the goals really started. I set a walking goal of 10 miles before I could go and start riding a bicycle again. Every walk making it just a little further till I reached about 6 miles. And I was told I didn't need my cane anymore. It became about working on my posture and still strengthening my legs. In the process, I started thinking of the future and the bike I would want. The more research I did, the more I wanted a certain type. Then I remembered we are in a pandemic and the cycling industry was hit hard, just like others. I became wrapped in the need to find a bicycle, putting myself in this depression. But I still wasn't even ready for it. It was decided I needed to express myself and what I was looking for out loud. And for me, that was on social media. It wasn't long before help was arriving. And before I knew it, I had an amazing bike coming to me. I kept walking, determined to reach my goal. And as I was getting closer to my goal, is when the weather here in Texas dropped, creating difficult and unsafe times for nearly 2 weeks. When the weather finally broke, I was able to reach my goal of 10 miles walking. It was finally time to get on the bike, and I did it far ahead of the original schedule. My first ride was off-road and far away from the cars. I realized I had developed a fear of cars approaching me from behind. This was something I knew I had to overcome to try to truly enjoy cycling again and to be able to finish my journey of the lower 48 states. I began riding on roads shortly after that, first on the slow, less traveled ones, but as I began to go further, I found myself on the US roadway again. I have a goal of riding 70 miles before I can begin loading the bicycle with weight. Yesterday, I rode 48 miles, getting me to just slightly closer to that goal. So now here I am, transitioning yet again, getting ready to start cycling for the rest of the states, and even with the constant pain, which most days have become tolerable in my knees and legs, I am happier knowing I get to ride. Some of those pains may never fully go away, and others I really hope will. I'm still struggling with brain issues, feeling this constant fog in my head and around my eyes, affecting my memory and the ability to focus. I know it takes time to heal, but I am very excited to be getting ready to resume my cycling mission of bringing awareness, one pedal at a time, to the real life issues people face. Something I say and do often is tell people, regardless of if they are struggling with mental health or not, is to share their stories, the good and bad ones, and to remember we all have them. So, what's the mission and plan moving forward? Continuing spreading my message about suicide awareness while having interactions with individuals along the way. So, the content from the Friends from the Road podcast will come from touching the individual strands that make up this diverse fabric we have in the world. Meeting the people I meet, the conversations we have, and their inspiring stories of personal courage, lessons learned, the funny interactions, and hope restored will be what makes up our fabric. The plan right now is, which is subject to change, but the plan is I will be going to New England to visit home and further condition myself by riding a bicycle around the area for a month. Then I'm going to return back to Texas to prepare for a hopeful June restart. I will restart my journey at my expected finish line of Seattle, Washington, then make my way south through Western Oregon. From there, I plan to zigzag through California, visiting San Diego, where I was stationed, then heading east to Arizona. From there, I plan on making my way to Flagstaff, where I was hospitalized and then finish my journey of the lower 48 states in Las Vegas, Nevada, hopefully by November 30th, 2021. From there, I plan to continue the FFR podcast as I journey through life, meeting new friends along the way. To get prepared for the Friends from the Road guest starting in April, I am going to re-release the Movement Monday episodes from Heart of Volunteer Veterans Podcast on Friends from the Road podcast. I hope you enjoy not just the Movement Monday episodes, but the Friends from the Road podcast series. And remember, when life shuts a door, it is allowing us a chance to open a new one. But if we ever have to go back, remember we can decide to see it in a different way on the other side. But it can be reopened. It is a door. And that's how they work. Enjoy today and have a great week. Copyright OPAATM Movement 2021.